as an organization that was an SME and has grown tremendously. So just a brief history on myself. I've in the last 10 years or so founded 4 different businesses in the Middle East and continue to be growing new ones. So the first business I founded was a business called Infofort, which was the first document storage business in the Middle East. We grew very rapidly. We doubled in size every year in our first 7 years of operation. We became a regional powerhouse and sold to Aramex 7 years into our history. I was recently with the CEO of Aramex who told us that to this day that's the most profitable business that they own. My second business was Bait.com. Last year we launched a business called GoNabit, which was the first group buying site in the region, which grew tremendously and was sold to Living Social, which is a global leader in that place. We currently launched a site called Mom's World, which is an e-commerce site for mothers and children. The road has not been easy in any of those. And again, as I look at the challenges in the region that we have to face, and other SMEs have to face, it's really an uphill battle. So in talking about the keys of success, I realized that there were four primary ones that have aided us. And I'm not sure that they would apply to everyone, but they were certainly relevant for us. And somehow they ended up being all words starting with the letter P. So I'll give you the 4 Ps from our perspective. P number 1 for us was obviously people. And so businesses are built with people. And in each of these businesses, we went after people who we should have not supposedly been able to attract. We went after the best of breed and the most expensive people we could find, even though as a small, medium-sized business, we supposedly could not attract them nor pay their salaries. But somehow we believed that if we really wanted to fulfill our objectives, we could only fulfill them with the absolute best people in there. And it was our job to sell them on why the concept made sense. And if we were able to sell great employees on the concept, then we would be able to sell everyone else on the concept. So people has always been step number 1. The second focus for us has always been planning. From the outset, we've planned our businesses as though they're big businesses. We've thought of them and built them with massive foundations, because we believe that if you start building with a small foundation, you can never expand your home. So from the outset, we looked for the best advisors, whether they were lawyers or auditors. We went to the best bankers, even though they scoffed at us early on. Oh, who are you? What sort of revenue are you going to bring in? But we felt that if we planned to be large, we would eventually become large. And if we plan small, we will continue to be small. And to a large degree, I find that as I look around at SMEs in the region, the vast majority of them I find are sort of stumbling into largeness. But oftentimes they've built up so much luggage from having planned incorrectly early on that their barriers become too big to get over. So planning for size has been important. The third P, and an extremely essential one, has been patience or perseverance. So if I talk about the challenges we face in this region, people all over the world think I'm insane to continue on doing what I do. So we've had everything from a government in the region that faces one of the largest unemployment issues invite us to set up shop in their country. We grew our staff to 100 people in their country, and one day a low-level bureaucrat, obviously seeking a bribe, comes in and says, listen, we're going to shut you down tomorrow unless you do A, B, and C. And you know what? We're not in the business of doing bribes, and we're not in the business of being shut down. But facing something like that, and this is a pretty recurring issue in various parts of our geographies, is a difficult thing to overcome. In another market, I was setting up one of our businesses in Saudi, arrived in a compound where the general manager we had hired was living in at 11 o'clock at night. At midnight, a car drove into the compound about 50 meters from our home, exploded itself, killed about 100-some people around me. I was in the midst of a gun battle for about an hour. Now again, conventional wisdom should have said I should have shut shop and never returned to that country. I mean, again, that was a very near-death experience, and as I sat on the floor thinking how many billions of dollars would this be worth, I realized that no amount of money would ever justify that type of existence for me. But yet we were still able to keep our business running, grow our business, and continue to serve the community, which was very important to us. So perseverance in this part of the world is far more important than it is anywhere else in the world. And I think it's something that has kept us in existence and allowed us to grow. The fourth P, so beyond people, planning, perseverance, is the one that underlies all other P's. And I would say that's passion. So we would not be able to hire the right people, we would not have been able to plan correctly or to have persevered unless we felt very, very strongly about what we do. And I find too many entrepreneurs or small, medium-sized businesses, when you speak to them and ask them, why are you in this business? They say, hey, it's a quick way to make money. A quick way to make money almost always ends up to be a long way not to make money. There needs to be a passion for why someone is doing that business and a real belief in what value that's bringing to the world. So our underlying motto at Baked, what every single person who joins Baked is taught, is a quote that I stumbled on many years ago. It's a quote attributed to the nephew of the Prophet, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, which says, no enterprise can be more successful than goodness. The logic there being that if you continue to focus on good and on serving your communities, you will become successful. And that success will surpass any other success. So it is goodness that should be the focus of business, not the quick buck or the profitability. And if you have passion for that goodness, everything else falls into place. So just as a final recap, for those of you who are taking that plunge and who are running small and medium-sized businesses and who continue to persevere and to have passion for it, I thank you. Because in my mind, the only way this region is going to sort its mess out is if you continue to succeed and continue to grow and others follow in your footsteps. So thank you, and thank you for your time. It's a great question. I would say it's very difficult to measure challenges against each other. Everything was a challenge. Getting incorporated is a challenge because the legal structure in our region is challenging, and particularly if you want to be regional. Finding and hiring good people is a phenomenal challenge, and that's one of the reasons I started Baked, is because I don't want to depend on third parties anymore to do that for me. I wanted to be able to reach out and hire people. Overcoming the fact that our markets, even though from the outside seem very large, are actually very small, fragmented markets. And each market is very, very peculiar. And that's a challenge. Dubai is very different than Abu Dhabi, which is different than Sharjah, which is a world apart from Saudi or Kuwait or Qatar. And so, the nature of business in and of itself is challenging, and then you get further challenges thrown in. So when I think of the number, we're a regional business. So when I think of the sort of wars, riots, commotions, trials and tribulations that we've had to live through, your average business practically anywhere in the world doesn't have to think about these things. But we do. We have to think about, hey, in Lebanon, something's going on. Do we keep our office open or do we evacuate our people? These are day-to-day. But I would say that the beauty of these challenges is they make the businesses much more rewarding, both, I would say, emotionally, but if you also succeed financially, because the challenges are so high, because most people don't persevere, you're able to develop a very strong competitive advantage, which makes the value of the business tremendous.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
I want to ask you, how do you differentiate yourself from the other providers in the region? Because as a person who hires a lot of people, I'm always challenged myself to seek out which is the best provider for my company. Because there are a lot of providers here in your line of business, and each one of them has a very unique proposition, or it may be the same. So can you please help me with that?
So if I may, I'd be very happy to sit with you and go through that because that's quite detailed. But I would say the following. One, I think a lot of people have a misconception that Baked is a recruiting agency. We're not. So just as a starting point, the vast majority of recruiting agencies in the Middle East are actually our customers. So if you went onto Bain.com today and you looked at jobs, a lot of them are jobs advertised by the top recruiting agencies who use this as a tool and basically make the arbitrage in money between what you're willing to pay them and what we charge them. Now, if you compare us to online recruiting sites in particular, there are very few of them. In fact, there's less than a handful. And when you look at those, again, what is someone looking for? Similar to a newspaper, item number one is circulation or choice. Because you want to make sure that if you're searching a database or advertising, you have the largest number of candidates possible. Bait's market share from a traffic perspective or CV database is equivalent to all of the players region-wide put together. So at 7 million CVs, again, we're several countries worth of people. And so that gives you a lot more choice. And that's first and foremost very important. That's why I would say people advertise more on Gulf News than Khaleej Times, for example, for jobs, circulation. The next is speed and ease. For you as a busy manager, if you're hiring lots of people, you want to make sure that you can get to the person as quickly as possible. And ultimately that has to do with technology. We have a lot of very amazing and unique tools that let you pinpoint that needle in the haystack very quickly. And then fundamentally it's about cost efficiency. Are you getting bang for the buck? So again, from a market share perspective, we own about 80% of the job site market share in the region and have steadily maintained or grown that over the years. So we feel there's a lot to maintain that strength. And underlying all of that is obviously a great team locally to help that. It goes back to the people. We do have a phenomenal infrastructure in the region.
Thank you, Rabia, for such enlightening aspects. I have a question. When you say we have to plan big, it's actually quite interesting for me. When you start a business, I completely agree with you, we have to plan big, but then maybe you can share your strategy for financing your business from day one. I mean, are you going for external investors or venture capitalists from day one, or do you recommend to bootstrap from day one, and at one point we go for external investors?
It's a great question, and I realize that there is a challenge because most startups are financially limited. So how do you plan big when there are those financial limitations? And it takes me to my fourth point, which is the point of passion. So I'll give you a few key examples. When I started InfoFort, which was, again, it's a document storage business, our primary expenditure was shelves. To fill out a warehouse full of shelves would actually cost us millions of dirhams. And we didn't have millions of dirhams. But I wanted to get the best shelves with the best shelf supplier, and I wanted to be able to draw on those shelves as quickly as possible. And so what I did is, because I was very passionate, I went and prepared a presentation as to what we felt the vision of the business was, where it was going. And we actually went and we pitched the suppliers. We told them, listen, I want you to buy a warehouse full of shelves from me, millions of dirhams worth of shelves. I want you to stock it for me, and then I want to buy it from you as and when I need it, and only when the customer has bought it. And so their question was, how long can that be? And we said, it could be months or years. They said, are you crazy? And they said, listen, this is where we believe this business is going. This is how much passion we have. And if you are the right partner, we're going to be with you for a long, long time. And that's one of many examples. We were able to sell that partner, and that partner, we became one of their primary sources of business. And to this day, even though I've stopped being involved with that business for several years, on a very regular basis, the managing director of that business calls me up to check how I'm doing and still laughs about the story of how we somehow managed to convince them to take up stocks of millions of dollars even though we were a total startup business. So it requires a certain amount of, I think, naivete, craziness, and passion. But we applied that across the board. We did that with our bankers, with our auditors. Our first auditors, again, were the likes of PwC and Ernst & Young. And I can promise you, we were their lowest paying customers by far when we started off. But somehow we were able to sell them on our vision. And we told them, listen, we can grow together and believe in us. And they believe in us. And if you don't get them to believe in you, then you have to really worry about your business prospects as a whole. Because ultimately, that's what the business is about. It's about selling people on your vision. I don't know if that's answered your question, but we did it being cash strapped, and we